So whenever you're writing, one of the things that you want to aim for is to mix up the types of sentence structure that you use while you're writing. You want to try and avoid writing just with a string of simple sentences. And so this document highlights the basically the four sentence structure types in order to be able to identify different types of sentences, but really to work on enhancing your own writing. Um, so essentially, we're looking at the four types here. First of all, we have a simple sentence, and this ties into um, the number of clauses that are in a sentence. Quick recap, and I've created another video that you should definitely check out on clauses to get a little bit more information. There are two types of clauses: an independent clause and a dependent or subordinate. Those terms are interchangeable. An independent or dependent or subordinate clause. An independent clause can stand by itself. It can be its own sentence. A subordinate or dependent clause cannot stand alone by itself. It needs an independent clause in order to make it a complete sentence. So when we talk about different sentence structures, we're really talking about the number of clauses in a sentence and the types of clauses in a sentence. So here's a quick breakdown in this chart for you to see. A simple sentence is one independent clause. Now, from a grammatical standpoint, technically a simple sentence can be long. It doesn't have to be short. Really, it's referring to the number of independent clauses. It means there are zero dependent or subordinate clauses, and there's only one independent clause. Now, you could have several phrases stacked in a sentence, and it could be rather lengthy, but grammatically speaking, it has only one independent clause. So easy example, I'm going to the mall. Now, a compound sentence, you've probably heard in other contexts, even if you haven't really thought of it in number of clauses. A compound sentence combines two simple sentences using a coordinating conjunction: and, but, or, nor, yet, so. But really, what's happening is you're combining two independent clauses or more. You could have a compound sentence that has more than two independent clauses with a comma and coordinating conjunctions. So you can see the example here. I'm going to the mall, but I will not buy anything. Again, the word but here is what we refer to as a coordinating conjunction. Um, this would be an independent clause. This would be an independent clause. And then this combines them. All right, so two or more independent clauses, still no subordinate or dependent clauses for it to be considered compound. Now, a complex sentence has only one independent clause and has at least one subordinate or dependent clause. It could have more. We see this example here. Even though I went to the mall on Saturday, I'm going again tomorrow. Sorry if you're confused by this underlining. I just pointed this out as where the subject verb combinations are. So there's actually there, and then I am going. There's your other subject verb combination. Because the longer the sentence gets, it can be a little bit difficult to identify how many clauses are there and whether they're subordinate or they're independent. So a helpful trick is to identify the subject verb combinations. So I went, I am going. There are my subject verb combinations. That tells me, okay, there are two clauses in here because there are two subject verb combinations. Now I need to determine what kind of clauses they are. Typically, you can look to the left of the subject verb combination. And as long as it's not like a phrase, some kind of introductory phrase, or maybe just an adverb to begin the sentence. Slowly, I went to the mall, right? Um, but but oftentimes, if there's information to the left, this very well may be what we call like a subordinated conjunction, something that's going to turn it into a subordinate or dependent clause. So now I know this right here. Even though I went to the mall on Saturday, that can't stand alone as its own complete thought, right? Because of this, even though at the beginning, I now need more information to complete the idea. I need an independent clause. So I have a subordinate clause here, and I have an independent clause here. I'm going again tomorrow. That could be its own sentence. So this sentence type is called complex. And then lastly, we have compound complex. So this is a combination of the two. It must have at least two independent clauses to make it compound. It needs at least one subordinate clause to make it complex. And here's my compound complex. Even though I went to the mall on Saturday, I'm going again tomorrow, but I will not buy anything, right? So this has three clauses in it. Again, I will, I'm going, I went. So I have three subject verb combinations, which tells me there are three clauses. Here's my subordinate clause. And then I have two independent clauses combined by the coordinating conjunction but. All right, so those are some, so you just see those laid out for you. You can see examples of turning simple sentences into a different sentence structure. Again, that's really the purpose here, is to elevate your writing so that you're not just sticking with one type of sentence structure, but you are varying it. Simple does not mean bad. It just means you don't want your entire writing or your whatever text you're producing, you don't want it just to be a bunch of simple sentences in a row. So here are some ways that you can kind of smooth that out. And there are a lot of ways to do this. There's no one right way. Doug went to the store. He bought a cake. Doug went to the store and he bought a cake. So I can turn it into a compound sentence. I could say Doug went to the store where he bought a cake and turn it into a complex sentence. Likewise, here we go. Doug went to the store. He bought a cake. Doug went to the store. Oh, sorry. Where he bought a cake. There we go. It's the same. It's the same example. Sorry. So here's a sample. If you want on your own, you can try to rewrite. This is like a string of simple sentences that you could try to rewrite for yourself. I'm going to show you a sample of how you could rewrite this. So if you want to practice on your own, pause the video for just a second. Okay, here's just an example of what this could look like. So Cinderella saw her fairy godmother appear. She was dressed in blue. She held a wand. The wand had a star in it, yada, 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 right? So you can see all that for yourself. It's a bunch of simple sentences. And now I've just sort of smoothed this out by creating different sentence types, by varying my sentence structure. Cinderella saw her fairy godmother appear. So I changed nothing. Her godmother was dressed in blue and held a wand with a star and sparkles on it. Amazed, Cinderella asked the woman who she was, and the woman responded, I'm your fairy godmother. She said that she would get Cinderella a dress and a coach and would help Cinderella go to the ball. There are lots of ways to change sentence structure to make it sound a little bit better, to make it flow a little bit better. But again, the principle is that you don't want to just use the same sentence type or the same sentence structure throughout the entirety of your text. You want to mix up the different types of sentences in order to elevate your writing style.